Hello and welcome to the Chris and Bud Show. My name is Chris Scarborough, and with me is my co-host, my friend, and my brother in pod, Mr. Bud Bohannon. Together we'll be taking you on a nostalgic ride discussing a wide array of topics from our childhood through today, hoping to share a bunch of laughs along the way.
Yeah. You know what time it is. It's time.
No, not yet.
Can I go now?
Yeah, now.
It's time for the Chris and Bud Show.
Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Destiny 1 and 2. I know that's a little out of order, but we decided to call an audible because these two games in particular, they really hold a special place in mine and Bud's heart. And it's a good place to, stop and talk about a game. It's right in between the 360, which was last week's episode, and next week's episode, which will be about the Xbox One and that generation. So we wanted to take a little bit of time here and just talk about these two games and kind of like, how it helped bridge our friendship and really kind of changed the course for myself and Bud. So Bud, if you want to say hello.
What's up, people?
This is going on like, I think this is like podcast 5 for us. 4, 5. Who keeps count? Anyway.
One of them numbers.
Yeah. So
it might be podcast number F. Who knows?
Yeah, it might be podcast last, right? Who knows? So jump right into it. Before we go into all the notes we have, I just want to mention that, Destiny 1, because that's going to be the game we're talking about first. Destiny 1, obviously, it didn't launch the best, as Bud will, I'm sure, attest to here, talking about the fact that he didn't really care for it on the 360. How it made huge strides between has to be just the console more so than anything, because I just don't feel like they would have made a whole lot of difference. But just the difference between that and then the switching over to the Xbox One, my initial playtime and my initial experience with it, the game itself, was obviously on the 360. It released in September 9th, 2014. So that would put, the Xbox One had already launched, but it was still very new. I wouldn't buy one now that my timeline's a little more clear. I wouldn't have bought one until, basically the end of this year, of that particular year, 2014. So my initial thought process, or my initial thoughts in general on the game, was that it was fun, but it lacked content. They launched Vault of Glass, which is the first raid, a week afterwards, which seems kind of crazy thinking about it now, but I guess that makes sense. Didn't take that long to get to the cap like it maybe should have. I think that's one thing that I guess I would always kind of complain about Destiny, is the way you level up, I guess, in the game. What about you, Bud?
Well, as far as them launching the raid like a week later, I wouldn't really think of that as a big ordeal, because when the game first released, we had no idea what a raid was. They just said that this is going to be in-game content. And at the time, you're kind of basing that games, I guess, like Borderlands 2. And I can't list any others off the top of my head that kind of correlate to this game, which is half the reason why it's so special to us, because it was something different at the time. The raids, we didn't know exactly what they were. So it's like they said something was going to launch a week afterward. Granted, this doesn't pertain to me because I played the game on 360. It was like a demo or a beta or something. And it was, once again, just how I am as a person. It had a terrible game engine. It felt clunky to me. I played it for 5 or 10 minutes and I never looked back on it. And then I believe you were playing it and you had started talking to me about it and you mentioned how fun it was. And I gave it another shot, but this time it was on the Xbox One. And I don't know if there was actually any physical difference between the game engine or not, or if it's just maybe I wanted to give it a shot because of the fact that you were playing it and it's something that me and you could grind through together. But I feel like there was a difference between the game engines, or maybe it was just the hardware difference. I'm not sure. I'm glad I gave it a shot because it kind of set the pace to where we're sitting right now.
Sure, words haven't been spoken for sure. Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways it brought back what we loved about our PC games, right? And we'll talk about this basically through every conversation we have. It'll be mentioning the fact that, yours was Diablo 2 and mine was EverQuest, but the teamwork required to beat these these raids, which we like you said, there was no precedent set, right? There was nothing to say, this is what a raid is and this is how it works. And there's going to be these puzzles and there's going to be this. So I think that if there was anything that Destiny and really Bungie in general that they pioneered and changed in a lot of ways, especially for a console game. I know it's also on the. I don't know. Destiny never did it ever make it to PC. It might have towards the end of its lifetime, I
No,
guess. But
not on the first one.
okay, so it would just be Destiny 2 Plus. So obviously that sort of puts this in a weird category because it didn't ever make it there. But it was for consoles. It's amazing to think what they accomplished with the raids and things like that. And obviously it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And it's amazing that if you start playing a game now, a lot of them run 3-man or 6-man groups now. When I was at the peak of my raiding and MMO time, we were 6-man groups always, and there was 54 player raids, 9 groups of 6 people. So that's a far cry from that, of course, but it's amazing to think that they were able to lay the groundwork of like, okay, group content, we're going to have 3-player teams and they're going to cooperate together to beat this boss, and then in raids it's going to be a 6-man group. And I think that was using what I guess the standard had already been set to some extent, but like those sort of things are pretty cool, just what they've been able to do and change and add on. I think that in terms of co-op or cooperative playing, I think they definitely changed a lot of what we know of as being a video game today, right? Because once you fall in love with something, you say you don't want carbon copies, but in a lot of ways you really do, right?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, even till this day, I'm very guilty of comparing every single video game that has come out since Destiny's launch and even future games. And it's, 2021 right now. I always compare those games' in-game content to Destiny, to raids. Trials at this point, it hadn't come out yet. It didn't come out until probably year 2 or year 3 of Destiny 1, somewhere in its half-life.
Yeah.
As far as in-game content goes, I mean, raids and trials, which trials isn't my thing. I'm not a sweaty competitive PvP guy, but I see the appeal to it. And every game to this day, I always look for the end game, and I'm thinking it's got to be like Destiny, or maybe not like Destiny, because I don't want a raid from another game to be exactly like Destiny's raid system. But I don't know. It's just like Destiny, I feel like they done it right. I feel like they just had stages of how you played the game. You started a character and you run through the campaign. Once you finish the campaign, then you can run off and do patrols and run strikes. And I was talking about this earlier with Paul. The strikes, I think the game launched with like 5 or 7 of them. And each strike is fun to do. Each strike takes like 15, 20 minutes to complete. So that's how you hit that next level bracket, is running through strikes. Once you got done with strikes, then you migrated on to the Nightfalls, which was a strike with different variants on it at a much harder difficulty. Then once you did that, you moved into raids, which was the end game of the end game. So the way that I label it is, you had like the strikes, which was in-game content. You had the Nightfalls, which was also in-game content. Then you had the raids, which was in-game content after the in-game content. And like I said, because they also had PvP in there too. So, I mean, there was plenty of stuff you could do in between. It wasn't just like most games. For example, like Borderlands 2. Their in-game content consists of running to this part of the map and just running through the whole level and killing a boss and hoping you get something that drops that you need or want. Destiny 1, I feel like they went about it so much better. They made it seem not so grindy and not so monotonous.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways what they did was amazing. I mean, try to think of another game that came out on 360 or even on Xbox One that you would compare in terms of how you play the game to it. And there's just not any that can think of.
I can't either.
There's some games that like have obviously if you just broaden it to and you take away the just only shooters and you broaden it out. I mean, you got like Neverwinter and you got Terra and a couple that are those are like quote unquote MMOs, right? So the only thing I can think of that would be comparable would be like your Neverwinter or your Terra, where they're classified more or less as MMOs, more so than I guess like a quote unquote shooter. But the thing that Destiny did was it just played smoother. Like I guess we'll never be able to fully explain that, but the game engine is just so damn good. Like I just don't know I can't even properly put it into words just how much better it is than any of the other, gaming systems gaming engines and it just does a great job of highlighting everything that you love about video games because it does everything about it.
It's kind of like Call of Duty when it first came out. To me, what made Call of Duty such a successful game and such a great game to play was at the time the only other shooters out was Halo. And as much as I love Halo, mainly because I have a different relationship to it, that social aspect, the game itself, I mean, it's not really that great. When you sit back from an unbiased standpoint, it's not really that great of a game. At its time, maybe, yeah. But when Call of Duty come out, oh my God, it was so smooth. Like, even till this day, Call of Duty makes some of the smoothest running games that are out there. And that's something to take pride in, because you got a game that you play and it's just so smooth like butter. It holds your attention to keep playing it longer. You feel like your aim is a lot better. You feel like your movements are just so fluid. It's just, the smoother the game engine, the more, I guess, immersed you become in the actual game. And then you go off and you play a game like, say, Borderlands 2, where it feels kind of clunkier. And once we get past the game engine, then you go into like the loot and stuff. And I feel like Borderlands, yeah, they have over 1 million guns or whatever. But how many of those guns do you actually use? You know what I mean? Like, you're grinding for, say, 40 guns, and that's a high estimate. You're grinding for 40
there's
guns.
Probably only like six or 8 guns that are worth the shit.
Yeah. So out of that million, you're only using, 1% of them, 2%, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And Destiny, yeah, they had a bunch of trash weapons. Obviously, your whites and your blues are trash. But then you got into the legendaries, which, they only had a couple different variants of each style. Like, they only had maybe 10 different auto rifles that were legendary, or 10 different hand cannons. And you just kind of found the one that you liked the most. Then obviously the exotic weapons were the go-tos, but Destiny made it to where you can only equip one exotic weapon and one exotic armor piece. So you can't it wasn't like Diablo at the time where you could just slap your character full of complete legendary gear and just go, break shit.
Yeah, I think that they had the thing that I think that they did really well with the guns is I feel like it was all about preference. Like, there was of course there's broken guns in every game, but I felt like if you preferred, say, a hand cannon and I prefer a scout rifle, we could still get the same job done. And it didn't matter. Like, you run whatever you feel like you want to run. I run whatever I feel like I want to run. The only thing that we couldn't not run, of course, was the Gjallarhorn. But other than that, the other 2 guns, it didn't necessarily matter. You just kind of whatever worked for you and your play style. And I think that that's one of the things that I really wish that every game somehow can find a way to do, but that Destiny seemed to perfect. They didn't get too far away from what makes a game and what makes them fun, right? Like, your primary gun, you should be using the majority of the time. Your special weapon should be something you use in certain situations. And then your heavy weapon you use when you need, to blow shit up, basically. And that's really, I mean, that's as easy as you can break it down, but that is about as perfect as you can make it. And that's what they did. I was a hunter, and I like to run scout rifles, and I like to run auto rifles. And I didn't feel like the game or the value lessened no matter which gun I ran. Like, the quality of the game and what I ran in terms of my class, like, it never felt like I was restricted in terms of what I should use. And maybe in a different game they would have done that. And I thought that it would be pretty cool if they did make a game where, like, you were more quote unquote role playing. So then you wouldn't use, like, for example, a hunter. There's no reason for a hunter to use an auto rifle. Like, I think it would have been pretty cool if they did that, but I understand why they didn't, because that's a pretty niche sort of group of people that would want to play that way. But I did think that was something that was pretty cool. And I did that for a little while where I didn't use auto rifles on purpose just because, I wanted to kind of experience the game in a different way. But I was able to do that, and I didn't hinder our progression, or it didn't hinder anything that we were doing. I think that they sort of perfected that. I can't think of another game where you had the same sort of flexibility and were able to be as successful and just enjoy yourself as much as we do, or did, I guess, in Destiny 1.
Yeah, because like you just mentioned, Destiny didn't go down that road where, say, the hunter is your assassin, and the Titan is the tank, and the Warlock is the mage. You know, that, like you said, that's been played out by so many different games. I mean, obviously it works. That's why it's been played out so much. But Destiny didn't want those three characters to take on those kind of roles,
or specifically only take on those roles, right? I mean, you can to some extent, but you didn't have to. Like, you could play the hunter just like you played the Titan, and you would still be successful. Obviously, there's certain things about a Titan and about a hunter that are different.
Don't tell me that. I was swording with the Titan, so don't tell me there's differences.
Yeah, we found a lot of ways to get things done, no matter what was supposed to be happening, right?
Yeah, screw you, online community, with your LFG groups needing hunters to run the sword. Screw you.
So, getting past like just the entrances to the game, you know, obviously we didn't become like we didn't play a lot together until after The Dark Below is released, which was released in December 9th of 2014. I would guess it wouldn't have been until the end of December, beginning of January, until I would have experienced it. So I'm guessing it's around that time when we both started to play together. Obviously, the timeline's a little foggy. That was a long time ago. But
yeah, you definitely were playing it before me.
Well, I mean, like on the Xbox One. So, like, obviously, I was playing the game on the 360, and then I think they allowed it to where you could port it over for free into the Xbox One, which was pretty cool because I was like, originally, I was nervous because I wasn't going to buy the game again. And then buy the DLCs and everything else again because I'd already bought the DLC and I bought the game itself on the 360, and I was really frustrated when they said that. But thankfully, I think they made it right, and they allowed you to basically get a code to buy it again on the Xbox One without paying for it. That was pretty cool, and it made my life a lot easier, especially in that time period of my life where I was, you know, we were definitely struggling. I wasn't over here, you know, banking or nothing. So it gave me an opportunity to get the game. I know that we ran a lot of the missions and a lot of the strikes and stuff, and it got to the point where eventually we were kind of like, I guess we just started talking about it. I really, honestly, timeline's foggy for me, so I can't remember what exactly I was doing around this time. But
working at Walmart.
Yeah, but I can't remember if I don't remember if I'd taken on. I don't know. I think I'd already. Maybe that was part of the problem. I don't know. No, I had to still be on third shift during this, I guess, because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. But
well, yeah, because this is literally like right when we met. I mean, we maybe have been talking to each other for.
This is when we were buddies. Yeah. We were buddies at this point, but we weren't like good friends.
Yeah, we maybe known each other for like a month or two. I mean, it wasn't long.
Or we were like talking and hanging, yeah. Because I mean, 2014, I had been there going on 3 years, so it was a good little chunk.
Oh yeah, so it was probably. But anyway, I mean,
that's neither really here nor there.
Well, it's related to the story.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like, so we had already kind of like been hanging out and like playing because Diablo 3 had already been released on PC. I'm pretty sure we had already played that, and then we started playing. I don't remember if Borderlands had come and gone yet or not. My timeline's a little foggy on that, but I know we had played Call of Duty and that sort of stuff together.
Yeah, I think that was our rotation of games. Was Diablo 3, Borderlands 2, Call of Duty, Destiny.
Yeah. So basically, once this time period came around, we all still had Tuesdays off, so that didn't change. Tuesday's reset day. So I guess I had to have been in a new position at that point because I was still doing Tuesday. I don't know. You know, because Tuesdays, I'm pretty sure I had switched and I still had Tuesdays off. I was over at Cap Team at that time. So I was on second shift and you were doing the third shift supervisor, I think. Either way.
No, I think we were still stocking when Destiny came out. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think you might be.
I don't know, man.
I think I'm pretty sure that the switch happened halfway through Destiny, like around House of Wolves or Taken King.
And maybe that's why. But I don't know. Like I said, my timeline's a little foggy because I do remember.
Well, yeah, I mean that's around 7 years ago.
Around the time of Taken King is when I got promoted. Near the end of 2015, I was out of Denver, so that might be part of the problem. Maybe that's part of why Taken King and beyond. I don't remember that well. In House of Wolves, it was kind of like we did it, but I didn't really enjoy the the Prison of Elders and that sort of stuff. So I knew that I guess my fandom had started to wane a little bit, and we were pissed that we didn't get another raid, right? So that was
Yeah.
part of it too. I just know that during the Dark Below, which was like I said, released in December, that was that. I mean, that was the bee's knees. That was Pinnacle Destiny, and I won't even just say Destiny 1. That was Pinnacle Destiny in general. So it launched, and however, we ended up getting on the same page here. I know that we were doing LFG groups to try and beat Atheon because we assumed that Atheon would be the easier of the, or I'm sorry, Vault of Glass would be the easier of the two raids between Vault of Glass and the Dark Below. Because once the Crota raid was released, I know that it was very difficult, at least at first, because people didn't know all the tips and tricks and all the fun that you could be had in that particular raid. So I do remember us doing LFG groups to do Vault of Glass. I remember we did Vault of Glass with a couple guys, and they said that they had tried the new Crota raid and that they could. They were hunters. There was at least one other hunter, and he said he knew how to run to the end of the first level and kill the ogre and beat it, so that we could at least get some drops from it. I remember that very vividly, and then I remember it got to the point where it's like, well, hell, if that hunter can do it, I can do it, right? Like I'm a hunter. Let's figure this out, bud. And basically, what ended up happening was you had to have. Well, I guess you didn't have to, but it helped. What were the? Oh goodness, I can't remember the name of the arms, but they help.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, the don't touch me's. You didn't need them necessarily, but they helped because if you did get hit, you automatically went invisible. So basically, for a while there, all we would do is we would run that 3 times. So we'd run it all 3 characters. I'd run it on my hunter, you'd run it on your hunter, and then you would save your Titan, and then whatever character I was using, and we would just run it until we could finish. And there was a lot of laughs to be had and a lot of fun that probably happened if we're just talking about just that one part. I mean, my goodness, the amount of fun we had, just like, because when you die, you can still watch the other one play. And I remember doing a lot because obviously you struggled at first with the Titan because he doesn't have any invisibility at all.
Yeah.
And having to run with him because you had already used your hunter, I've already used my hunter. We both want to get the rewards without having to run it a total of 4 times and just getting used to it. And the easiest way is just to play, right? And so I would die usually at the first couple lamps. That's what it was called, lamps. And I would just kind of help out. I'd be like watching your 6, like, hey, there's this coming up on you. Hey, and that sort of stuff. And
until we pulled out the icebreaker, that was awesome.
Yes, I remember. I definitely remember that the first time we pulled out the icebreaker and just watching every one of those thralls just explode like in a line of death. It was hilarious. I
don't think they intended for that to be in the game.
No, but it was hilarious. I remember the first time you did it, like my game lagged. It was like so much death. Like I remember you're like, I'm gonna give this it's one of the things where it's like I guess that's a part of Destiny 1 that I just loved so much was you would just try new things. You're like, hey, listen, I'm gonna use the icebreaker because it always has one in the chamber, always. So you always have at least one ammo. And you said, I'm just gonna see what happens. And well, I didn't expect that to happen, but it was still really funny when it did.
Yeah, I mean it's like troll moments, who because you got probably like 50 thrall that are right on your ass. So who in their right mind would run the lamps with a sniper? A single shot weapon. Like that is just a troll moment. And lo and behold, this troll moment led to laughs, and it also led to glitches or an exploit. I don't know what you want to call it. But yeah. And same way with the raid, as we progress, it's like, well, whatever we're doing now is not working. So rather than beating our head on the wall, let's try something new. Even if it seems stupid, let's just give it a shot.
Yep. And that's basically what happened. Like I said, when we first started for the first couple of weeks, because it was basically just me and you, a couple of our friends would play every so often or pop on, like Tyler. Paul wasn't into it just yet, but Tyler would pop in every so often. So I guess Mikhail maybe occasionally. And
pony boy.
And yeah. and old Pony Boy, whenever he felt like causing some ruckus, he'd hop on too. And I just, yeah, he was a pain in the ass. But they would usually get on mostly just for the free loot. They weren't getting on to be helpful. So I just remember we would run it a lot on regular mode, like on just the regular difficulty. And then we said, well, hell, if we can do it on regular, at least we can run it the one time. And I think that's where a lot of it ended up happening, where you would be on the Titan, I'd be on the Hunter, and we would just be experimenting in hard mode. And then usually you just couldn't kill the ogre at the end. That would usually be sometimes the issue. If you made it, you would struggle to kill the ogre at the end, and I don't blame you. You didn't have the most broken gun in the game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was one of those things where the game, at least in the lamps part, it was a lot of fun to where we just had the ability to kind of like play together. We were friends, of course, but like you were able to like, I knew what you were going to do. You knew, that's the thing I guess about especially this game compared to some other games in general. Like I definitely felt like the game engine was so smooth that like if I knew where you were going to be, you knew where I was going to be, and you knew what was going to happen. Basically, I mean, obviously there was some variables, but for the most part, it was one of those things where we felt like I felt like we had more control over what was going to happen than in some other games in particular, I guess. And especially like with the lamps, and then the next part with the bridge, that was an accident, and it was one of those where we found a video and on YouTube, and I remember you texting me saying, "Listen, I found this. What do you think?" And I was like, "I mean, I don't care. Let's give it a shot. We got nothing to lose, right?"
Yeah. To kind of sum up on your knowing what each other's going to do thing, especially on the next part when you get to like the Death Singer and stuff, the raid kind of splits off into one team go to the left and one team go to the right. So if we're carrying like our buddies through, Chris would always go to the left and I would go to the right. And the good thing is when we do this, if I'm assigning, like if I'm taking kind of like the role, the leader of the group, and I'm like, all right, Tyler and Pony, you go on Chris's side, and then the other two guys come with me. I don't really worry about what Chris is doing. I know he knows what needs to be done, and I know that he can hold his own. So I don't have to worry about like, him dying or him asking what to do or knowing where to go or, who to juke, that kind of stuff. Because we play this thing together all the time. So we have our own set routines and patterns and stuff. Like, there's some people you play with that for whatever reason, they always die to wizards. So you're like, okay, well, this person's going to get shit on when they run across a wizard. Or there's some people that don't know how to dodge like the boomer shots and stuff like that. I mean, when you play with someone for so long, you learn the ins and outs of what they struggle with the most and what they're better at. For example, if you run with some guy and you're like, this guy's a god with a sniper. All right, I've got your task. You're better with a sniper than I am. Or this guy's a lot better at clearing out ads. Or this guy's a lot better at just not dying overall in general. Or this guy's really good at navigating the map, being a sword bearer, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of other people's, right? It was basically, at least in the beginning, it was just me and you, and a lot of people didn't want to go through the hassle of learning how to do things. At least not initially, right?
Well, yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, because it was just me and you, and nobody else wanted to play. So I just remember, like, we would, like, for example, on the bridge, to do it correctly, one person's supposed to stand in the middle to form the bridge. Two people are supposed to stand at the pillars on both sides, left and right. And then once you stand on there long enough, you kill a sword bearer, you walk across, you kill a sword breaker, like a big old blue guy. And then you do that, 3 times? And then you do it on the other side. So basically, that way you get all 6 people across. Well, there's ways around that. But, and obviously 2 people can't, we can form the bridge. We eventually figured that part out too, but it requires a lot of running around in circles and stuff. But it was one of those where we got to the point where we saw a video on YouTube. So once you jump up in the air, and it causes all the ads and the thralls on the one side to everything despawns except for the sword bearer. You can kill the sword bearer and you can sword fly across, and then once one person is across, generally speaking, I mean, sometimes there was some goofiness, but it would cause the stuff to spawn on the other side. So then, and usually the sword bearer was Bud almost exclusively. I'm not very good at sword flying, even to this day. I suck at it.
Yeah, because we played this like a couple weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, just for shits and gigs.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know that I don't think I made it across once.
You still ain't figured it out after all this time.
Yeah. I always had the Gallarhorn, so I was always in security. Yeah. I always had my own security there, you know. But so I guess once you fly across, you kind of wait there and you just kind of hang out at behind this little pillar, and then it'll cause like the wizard. I'm not the wizard. Yeah, the wizards and the ogres to spawn. And generally, I would just snipe them from the other side. So I would help out and snipe the wizards, and then that would cause it to kind of finish. Whereas you're supposed to kill 6 sword bearers, and then it goes into like this rampage mode where everybody gets swords and you just kill a bunch of shit, and then it'll eventually finish. But because it was just me and Bud, we had to find another way around, and that was the way around. It's not that way anymore. They fixed it or patched it or whatever. They patched it so that you no longer can despawn enemies on the one side. So if you didn't want to form the bridge and cross the bridge, and they require you to kill all 6 sword bearers. So generally, what Bud will do now is Bud will fly across, spawn one, fly back across, fly across again, kill one, you know. And it's crazy. So, but you can still do it, but it's a lot more of a headache than it used to be. We used to have a lot of fun just waiting for this crap to spawn, shooting rockets at each other, which is, you know, a lot funnier when you're looking down the barrel of a sniper rifle and you see this giant rocket come flying at your face. So we had a lot of fun just playing that. Unfortunately, bridge is like the worst part of the game, of the raid. So it's like, it's not fun. It isn't even fun to do it the right way. Like, to be honest with you, the bridge is my least favorite part of the game. Now, when you're killing stuff, when everybody gets a sword after everybody's across, that's pretty freaking fun. It's generally speaking the worst part of the game, or the worst part of the raid. What do you think, Bud?
The worst part of the raid is definitely Kurta and his bullshit antics.
I mean, I guess I agree that it's in terms of, but I mean, that's just bullshit, though.
The problem that I have is forming the bridge legitimately. I actually think is very fun, but you know, this goes back to our same dilemma. We never had people to do this with, and even if we did have people join us, we only had like 3 or 4, which still isn't enough to do it legitimately. So if we ever had 4 people in the game, like the 2 people, we had to go have them die so we could glitch our way to victory, because for whatever reason it would not work if you had a team of 4 people.
It was my least favorite part. I guess when, like you said, if you had 6 people in and you had to do it the legit way, I enjoyed that. But because we had the ability to do that so infrequently, it's probably my least favorite part.
There's a lot of trial and error on that part.
Yeah, like a lot of things can go wrong that screw up everything. After that is just a little trial, which is always kind of fun. We had a lot of laughs in this particular one, especially with when everybody else would come join us. Because this is the funniest part, because this either tells you, you know, I mean, obviously, even if you know what you're doing, shit happens. But basically, the next part, Thrall all run towards you, but they can't go past a certain point. And you have to kill 3, what are they called, Bud?
2 Shriekers.
Is it 2 Shriekers? It's killed 2 Shriekers, and then it opens the glass door or the glass section for the last part. And if you get out quick enough, there's a chest at the across the way. Yeah. It's a lot of fun to watch other people do it. Like we used to push. Basically, what you do is you'd farm ammo there, right? So you would kill a lot of the thrall just to get ammo, just because if you're low on other stuff, or that way you don't have to spend a pez, as we used to call them. That's where you would, I guess, we would farm ammo at before you start it, and just trying to jump and not get hit by a thrall and make sure you hit. Because you're aiming down the sights of a rocket launcher or whatever, trying to hit this shrieker. it's definitely funny to watch other people do it, especially when they get caught when they're trying to
Yeah.
jump and they get caught on the thrall and then they die. It is definitely a funny part of the game.
Or when the game messes up and you actually did kill the Shrieker, but the wall's still in place.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah,
arguments we had with that? Oh Lord.
Yeah, there was a lot of glitches on that sort of stuff. I just or if you did kill it and it didn't like register, but it's still there. We've had that happen a couple. Or when we used to do where Bud would get the first one and then I would run to get the second one, or whoever didn't necessarily have to, but anybody, and then they would not get the first one, and then I'd get the second one, and then you have to like try to get back to get the first one. And it's literally it's what I don't know. If you're using game feet, it's like maybe 100 feet long. Like it's not a long passageway, but a lot of shit can happen in that little bit of space, right?
Or like all the hiccups, like, you were using a Galahorn, you're like, yeah, one shot kills these Shriekers. Whereas I was using some kind of tracking rocket launcher. I think it was like the Sunshot or the Truth, or I don't remember. But either way, one of my rockets would not kill it. So one Galahorn shot would take them down, but it's like sometimes maybe a Wolfpack round or two would not hit it, and then it would have like just a little niblet of health. So we'd be hopping up and down like bunny rabbits, shooting it with an auto rifle or a scout.
Yeah. It's just like the trial and error and just the fun you'd have. And then, the other part is like just jumping down to get into the ear ute part and just dying because the game's stupid sometimes and doesn't process the jump, which isn't very far. Yeah. Well, that leads into the best it's probably my favorite part of the raid, to be honest. I really like the ear ute part, the pulling out the wizards, the killing the wizards, the running in to kill ear ute within a time limit. Like all that is, and then while all the other chaos is going on, right? Because it's not just that. There's ads everywhere. There's knights everywhere.
But you got to back it up a little bit too, especially when we don't know how the mechanics of the raid works. We didn't know that there was a timer, and how many times did we fail this thing figuring out how to do it correctly? We both started going to the same side, and then it's like, okay, we killed everything. What do we do? And then you'd run inside. It's like, oh, there's something spawning in here. And then you kill that, and you're like, all right, well, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, what we used to do is we used to go on the same side because we didn't have enough, or we didn't think we had enough firepower to pull out for both sides, right? Because the way the mechanics work is you run in, you kill a Shrieker, you come out, you kill another Shrieker, you come out, you kill two, you go back in, kill two wizards, pull the wizards out, kill the two wizards. Then you go in, you kill your ute, basically. Yeah, I remember it. So what ended up happening was I would go by myself. If we had 3 people, I'd go by myself. Bud would take whatever lackey, crappy person was with us, usually Pony. You guys would go together because you couldn't kill a Shrieker in one hit. It is what it is. And I could because I had the Galahorn. It's not a matter of skill. It's just a matter of I had a gun that had rockets with Wolfpack rounds that basically guaranteed to kill it in one shot, and then you could pull that wizard out. So it was just like you said, it's learning the mechanics of the game, and of course, you'd have Pony die from the Boomer Knights up on the, in the I guess that I don't know what they call that, but
the tower,
hiding the towers up there, up above where Crota will spawn. So it's just like certain things where you have to pay attention to, or and then there was a bunch of just regular knights running around that could sword swipe you and basically kill you in one hit too. So there was a lot going on, and you only had, I think, 2 minutes. I can't remember the exact number, but it's not very long. And nothing worse than seeing that the timer kind of pop up, and then it start to flash, like because I guess
the Death Singer starts her eulogy or whatever.
Yeah, and then it's the screen starts to change colors, and you're like, oh god, I don't even have her. I'm not even. You're just like freaking out.
Yeah, she's standing still, and it's just a DPS phase, and you can kind of gauge like how her health bar is going down, and you're like, we don't have it. There's no way. We just don't have the deeps.
Yep, I remember one time very well because you only got six rockets, 7 rockets, something like that. And if I had to go help you, for example, to get your streaker down or get your wizard down or whatever the case, whatever it is, or I didn't have 7 when we started, whatever, or I used a rocket and I hit something else, whatever. Yeah, the DPS is your bulk of your DPS is your rockets. So if you're a rocket short or 2 rockets short when it comes time to get to Iryu, man, you can only hit her with so many fusion rifles before she'll die.
Yeah, and then we were waiting in the beginning screen because you're like, I only have 2 rockets, so I can't do this. So you'd have to pop a Pez, and the Pez's are on a 5-minute cooldown. So then we'd have to wait for that cooldown to reach about a minute and a half. Like, we had this shit planned out to a science.
Yeah. I remember one time very specifically when we were fighting Iryu, and somehow she got ported like behind her screen, like behind the glass she was on the outside part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that
she was
glass.
where she was no longer in the crystal room. She was on the other side. So you had to run back out and try to kill her. And if once that thing hits like 20 seconds left, there's just no way. So it's just like, I can't believe we lost because she somehow ended up on the other side of that glass. And just those sort of like goofy things. But I really believe that hers is the most fun. Like I enjoy hers the most personally. Crota was always kind of boring for me because I wasn't very good with the sword, obviously.
Crota was just
I never
annoying
had a choice.
because there's so many mechanics that fucked you over. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, hell, just the beginning, right? If some idiot died or was basically dead because they can't not get shot by 4 acolytes, whatever. And then you gotta like you said, we're timing Pez's here because of shooting rockets and stuff, and which was always fun. Like I never got to run the sword because I always had the Gallarhorn, so I didn't have a choice. I was always shooting my Gallarhorn, and which was fine. It was just that put us in positions where we didn't have as much flexibility, so that's where we had to learn how, or Bud had to learn how to use the sword, and
with the fat shit Titan.
Yeah, and it's amazing that we did it, and was basically with little to no hiccups. Like we've had some funny. I mean, obviously, him just standing up for no fucking reason and just swiping you dead. I mean, what can you do? Yeah, I mean, what can you do?
Because the thing is, this part of the raid is all about communication. Once you clear out the ad room, you run outside. Once you run outside that room is when a timer starts for Crota. So the people that are not sword bearing just all run and jump on the window ledge where the Death Singer would teleport that you were talking about earlier. The guy that was running sword would kind of go out like quarter way and look for the sword bearer, wait for him to spawn. And then he would generally solo the sword bearer. Sometimes some of the guys on the ledge would help, like if they had the ammo to do so. And then the guy would pick up the sword and pick which side he wanted to run on. I chose the right side because it was easier for me as a Titan. So I'd hop on the little rock, drop the sword, pop my bubble, pick the sword back up. I'd give a call out, shoot him now. I'd wait like 2 seconds for the rockets to go. And then after that 2-second mark, I would time it to where I'm running up there right as he's kneeling down. So once he kneels down, you can damage him with the sword. Well, the problem come up with when he would go down, and he's supposed to stay down for about 4 to 5 seconds. But there was glitches in the game for whatever reason that he would go down and kneel and just immediately stand right back up. And when he done that, he would stomp me and I die. And that's an instant wipe because it spawns this thing called an Oversoul. Yep.
Yeah. If it's just me and you and it spawns an Oversoul like you're saying, it's, insta wipe right there because you have to DPS that Oversoul down to explode basically. And then you go from there. And no, that wasn't fun.
No, because we didn't, even when we had a full group of 6, like unless like a hunter used Golden Gun, we didn't have the DPS for that Oversoul half the time.
So after the Oversoul, that's why goal is not to have that Oversoul even pop up, right? So, but if it does happen, you get kind of in this cruddy spot where you just basically just wipe and start over. So usually, we do our best to. I know at one point we were getting to the point where you didn't even call them out anymore. Like when it was just you and me, it was just like we had our timing down so good that We didn't have to worry about trying to, you know, hurry up and shoot your rocket. Like we had a time to like I knew when to shoot the rockets. You knew when to get up, and like we got to the point where we didn't have to communicate at all. And that was one of the things I guess I really enjoyed is that we were able to kind of like accomplish so much even with like no communication if we didn't want to.
Yeah, one of my
And that led.
favorite spots about that, and I only remember it because I made a clip of it on Xbox. For whatever reason, this was before we figured out how the timing on the sword worked. Like I jumped up there and I got my swipe heavy in, and then I run back down on the rock and I did my call. I jumped back up there and I went swipe, and I went to go heavy and the sword ran out. So I just kind of punched Crota in the dick with my fist, and he didn't like that. So he stood up and somehow I still beat feet and he swiped at me and I got away.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments as well. I just remember the excitement we had when we finally beat Crota, just me and you. Because of course we had still beat Crota a lot. What we'd do is for a while there, we would just save the checkpoint, right? And then we would try to get people to come in and help us beat it. Just because it was a struggle for you and I. But
yeah,
once the Dark Below kind of, that's where the bulk of our friendship, the bulk of our relationship was. And we want to go over some of the awesome weapons. Like this is the thing I guess I liked about Destiny more than anything was you got the weapons and you got all this cool stuff that was available to you that gave you a reason to do the raids, right? So some of the cool weapons that they had, for example, I'm just going to read them over and we can kind of talk about them. The Black Hammer, which we nicknamed Black Dong.
Black Dong.
Yeah. So basically, 3 shots and it refilled your
3
magazine.
Precision shots.
Yeah, 3 precision shots and it refilled your magazine, which basically is the only weapon. Which is why I wasn't using the Icebreaker. We were using Black Hammer, and once you hit that ogre 3 times, you got it reset, and then you could use it again. Light of the Abyss, which is one of the very, that's definitely a fusion rifle everybody used, right?
Well, because it dropped a lot, had a very high drop rate.
Definitely. Hunger of Crota is that would be the rocket launcher you were thinking about. I would think.
The Gjallarhorn Jr.
Yeah, it was definitely the Junior.
Yeah, it had tracking rounds, but it only made cluster bombs, which dropped at the enemy's foot. So pretty useless on wizards and shriekers.
Yep. I skipped over the sword breaker. I actually didn't get that weapon until like one of our last runs, and shotguns weren't very useful. Just being point blank honest, they weren't very useful.
They weren't balanced very well in Destiny 1.
Song of Iryu was a great weapon, but machine guns weren't balanced well. It's hard to use a machine gun when you have a Gjallarhorn. So
yeah,
I mean, it just didn't get used that much. And then the ones that you got from the hard mode, which would be all your primary weapons that had elemental damage attached to them, which was awesome. They said it was OP and it was too much for the game, so they took it off, and that's why none of them really have it these days, unless it's an exotic. But the Oversoul Edict, and the other thing about these, which I forgot about until just now when I read that, was they had perks for the raid specific items, right?
Yeah.
Like Oversoul Edict, is that the one that shot through Night Shields?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's awesome, right? So you have the ability that when they put up a shield, you can shoot right through a Knight shield when they're trying to heal.
Because there's nothing more annoying than you have an auto rifle and you're pegging this Knight, and then you get near the bottom of your clip with your auto rifle, and this douchebag just throws up his shield a quarter health left, and next thing you know, now he's regenerating health and you're reloading your gun. It's so annoying.
Yep. Abyss Defiant.
That was my gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to love auto rifles, right? And so that was a gun we both used a lot. I actually don't remember what the perk was on it. Did that one have like bonus damage against the Oversoul or something?
No, that was one of those ones where in Destiny 1, they didn't classify the auto rifles really by the like RPM fire rate. But
yeah,
to kind of put it in terms that maybe some guys would understand, the Abyss Defiant, when you were zoomed in, was kind of like a 320 RPM fire rate. And when you hip fired, it was like 600. So it was really
Yeah.
nice to have, like, I used it, for example, when you'd be running with an area with a lot of thrall, you just
Yeah.
hip fire, spray and pray, you know what I mean? And then you had the zoom in feature to where you could do some fine tuning work, from long range. And I used the shit out of that auto rifle.
Think the what is that one in? My goodness. There's the auto rifle and the exotic auto rifle does that basically the same thing now on Destiny 2. Can't remember what it's called, but same thing where you zoom in, it shoots at a slower rate. So that would be someone if you haven't really played Destiny 1 but played Destiny 2, you might be familiar with. Another one, Word of Crota. It was, I guess, their attempt at like a Fatebringer. It wasn't quite as good, but it was definitely a good weapon. And the other thing is like all these weapons had like the design of the what am I thinking? Hive. So they all
Oh,
had
yeah.
Hive like
Yeah, before we go on, I don't mean to interrupt you. The Abyss Defiance perk did more damage to wizards.
oh yeah, and they were also solar. Most of their shields were
Yeah.
solar, so that is a double benefit because then you have the benefit of both sides. So you're getting through their shield faster, and they do more damage to them. So definitely a good gun to have, especially against wizards who are annoying as shit. If you got it pulled up, or if you remember about the Word of Crota, I do not remember the perk on that one either.
I'm
A lot of
pretty
these I didn't
sure
use that well, or use that much. I mean,
I'm pretty sure Word of Crota was a land precision hits and it increases your reload speed, or it does more
Yeah.
damage at the bottom of the clip. I don't remember which one, but it was one of those two.
but it was basically supposed to be similar to the Fatebringer. That was kind of the goal.
It didn't. Yeah, it wasn't no Fatebringer. That's
No.
for sure.
No, I think it had the explosion rounds or whatever, the precision head explosions. Similar, like it was similar to the Fatebringer in the things that it did, I guess.
No, it just
obviously
had
didn't.
it just had explosive rounds. It did not have Firefly.
Oh, it's only
And,
explosive rounds. Okay,
yeah, Fatebringer had Firefly and explosive rounds.
gotcha. The last one that we got listed here in terms of from the hard mode would be the Fang of Ir Yût. That was an awesome scout rifle. I used it a lot. It had really good handling on it, so it didn't jump a lot. Most scout rifles didn't really jump that much anyway, but this one, I felt like it was a lot smoother than some of the other scout rifles, and I can't tell you the perk on that one either. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm
But,
pretty sure that one increased stability as you landed precision hits,
Okay,
or
so that one
or
was still
shoot
good,
speed, fire rate. One of those two.
Gotcha. Because I mean, we basically used Abyss Defiant and Oversoul Edict. Those two dropped more than any other two because the Oversoul dropped in Lamps and then Abyss Defiant, I'm pretty sure, dropped in Bridge. So they dropped a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is what it is.
And I used those two guns throughout the rest of the freaking game. They were just that good. I loved them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were definitely two of my favorites. And unfortunately, or what's kind of hilarious is the primary weapons were 10 times better than a lot of the non-primary, but I guess they were in the hard mode, so that's kind of the point. We'll just briefly talk about some of the other expansions, but unfortunately, by this point, my gameplay kind of dwindled, right? So, and that started kind of with House of Wolves, which was released in May of 2015. They had bumped the light level a little bit. They added the Vestige Outpost. They added Prison of Elders and Trials, and they boosted the damage up to 365. Man, that's kind of like the end of my life with them. Do you have any fond memories of House of Wolves?
Well, House of Wolves is when Paul and Philip came back to the game, because I distinctly remember running Prison of Elders with them.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Paul and Philip run Destiny 2. I know we played House of Wolves together. We most certainly played Taken King, which is kind of where you fell off. And we played a tiny bit of Rise of Iron. And Rise of Iron for me is when I kind of started getting away from Destiny.
It wasn't Rise of Iron's fault. It was just that was kind of running out of gas, right?
Well, I think at that time I was shifting jobs and, working 19, 20-hour days. So time for video games, it wasn't there,
Yeah. And basically that's kind of how it works for me. Like Taken King, I liked it. I liked what they did. I liked them adding Saturn. I liked everything that they kind of did in that expansion. It wasn't a good time in my life, or it was a great time in my life, but not a good time in my life to be playing video games. because I had just gotten promoted and I was in a different city, and just that sort of stuff. So I didn't have as much time to play video games.
Well,
And
if I
Rise of
remember right, didn't you have some like personal things going on around that time with like your ex and kid and all that stuff?
Yeah, I always have that going on, I think. uh, I think that around this time period, I started dating somebody, so I was no longer single. So that was part of it.
Say no
And
more.
so yeah, I was no longer single, so I was dating somebody at this time. So video games kind of like fall off at that point anyway, right? Because you just don't have as much free time for yourself, and you're spending it with other people.
Yep,
And
women
then I got
women ruin my homies again. Never fails.
So that's why I kind of stopped playing video. Well, I didn't stop playing. I just didn't have time to play. And then I had got promoted as well. So that sort of like took me out of it. And then when Rise of Iron came out in the middle of 2000, well, near the end of 2016, I was already into role at that point, and I think I was playing a lot of video games with my brother, but it wasn't nearly the same because I do remember playing some Taking King with my brother, but he was on third shift still, so I would play with him in the morning times. So it wasn't the time that we were generally still playing. But to be honest with you, it's kind of funny because those last two are probably two of the best expansions they released. It was just the timing in which they released them. Had it been like Vault of Glass, Dark Below, Taken King, Rise of Iron, and then ended with House of Wolves, I think that we would remember Destiny, at least the original one, slightly different than we do. What do you think?
So my order would obviously be Dark Below, Taken King, House of Wolves. Maybe I'd have to put Age of Triumph before House of Wolves. I had a blast playing that when they revamped all the raids. I mean, I enjoyed that so much that I played it by myself. Like all my Destiny friends had done moved on and they didn't care, but I wanted to go back and get all them guns back at level 400, and I had a blast doing it.
And you finally got your Gjallarhorn, right?
Yeah, I think I got the Gjallarhorn a little before that.
Yeah, so my order would definitely be Dark Below, Taken King, Rise of Iron, and then House of Wolves. I really did not enjoy the Prison of Elders at all. Like that whole thought process and I think part of it was because Borderlands had something very similar in one of their DLCs, and I think that might be why. And I didn't like that. And it doesn't play exactly the same, but like the kill wave, beat boss, kill wave, beat boss, same sort of scenario. And it just wasn't my style. So I definitely didn't really care for House of Wolves. And we were pissed that we didn't get a raid, right?
Yeah, that was the main reason.
Else, and that was enough to piss me off to where I didn't want to play it. So
that's
we're going to move on to...
That's kind of how our Destiny 2 career ended, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest. So basically, we're going to move on here to Destiny 2. Don't hit the pause button. We're still rolling. But it's time for some questions. It's that time. It's question time. All right, bud. Would you rather vacation in Hawaii or Alaska, and why? Go.
Well, I can't afford either. But if I could, I would go to Hawaii. First reason, because it's warm. Second reason, I want to drink something out of a coconut. And third reason, I would really like to watch them chicks hula hoop, or not hula hoop, that's the wrong. Do the dance with the grass
hula.
skirts. Yeah. Hula hula. Thank you. And I would not go to Alaska because it's cold. The only thing that they have up there is bald eagles and bears. And I'm not a gold miner. What about you?
I have the exact opposite reasonings for all of it. I'm taking Alaska, and here's why. I've been to a beach. I've drank stuff out of a coconut. I've cracked open a coconut and drank the milk out of it while on an island like Castaway.
That don't count.
So I've already done all this stuff. For me, Alaska is just such an untamed area. There's just so much cool things to do there. I just the thought process of Alaska, I guess. You got to go through Canada or fly over Canada just to get to it. Yeah, it's cold, sure, but they make stuff to wear for that. I'm going to Alaska because I've already been to a beach.
And now that question time is done, let's get back to the show.
And we're going to talk about it. It was released September 6th, 2017. on the PS4 and the Xbox One. On the 24th of October, it was released on the PC on the Blizzard store, and then about a year, 2 years later, actually, it went free to play. So right now, you can play the Destiny 2 for free. Basically, the way I feel about this game is I wanted to enjoy it, but they changed so much, especially in the beginning of the game, that I don't know. I took days off of work. I mean, so, yeah, some people took a week off of work. Like
Guilty.
we wanted this to be what it was. I wasn't able to take a whole week off, but I know I take at least the whole weekend off. Or well, it released on like a Tuesday or something, but whatever. I took like 3 days off from work so that I could play this video game. It's just like, the story was pretty good. I'm not going to take away from the story, but it's like they didn't know what to do after that, I guess. I don't know. It just didn't feel the same. I didn't like that they locked weapons into like you couldn't use a fusion rifle unless it was in your heavy weapon. I just didn't get some of those thought processes. Like they made I guess some of the changes they made were just too radical. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, my biggest issue with Destiny 2 was, like you said, we took time off of work, or at least I did, and Paul did as well. The issue I had was that me and Paul were damn near max level after 3 days of playing it. Now, granted, this was playing 20 hours a day, pretty much, but we just ran out of shit to do. We was waiting on the raid. We wanted to be raid ready. And when the raid did come out, it was nowhere near as enjoyable as, like, Destiny 1, with Crota and Vault of Glass and Taken King or King's Fall. I don't know. It didn't. I don't know how to describe it. It was, maybe it's because
disappointment.
Maybe it was just because we already knew how the raid process worked and we already knew like the mechanics and stuff. Because the other thing too is when we was going through Crota raid and Vault of Glass and King's Fall, we didn't YouTube any of that stuff. Like we may have Googled a part that we were stuck on, but that was about it. We kind of wanted to figure it out for ourselves. Destiny 2 rolls around in the Leviathan raid. We just said fuck it, and we just, basically started a YouTube video after our third fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember the first day it launched. I was actually able to make it. I don't know how the hell that worked out, but I was able to make it for the first day. And I remember us playing, and it took us a while to figure out what to do. And I think the part of it was it became just like this kill shit and then move on and then kill shit and then move on. It didn't feel unique, and it didn't feel like it had any sort of like the cachet or that feeling you get when you're in a raid, I guess. I don't know. Like you said, it didn't feel like it was in a raid. You felt like you were just 6 people playing in an open, like not an open world, but like in like a trial run. Like you're just here's a trial of endurance, and then here is your trial of puzzles,
like
and then here's your trial of this. Yeah, I was like, yeah, exactly. It's like if Diablo was a six person game instead of a whatever, how many ever, I don't know what it caps out at. Like if you just had 6 people raiding on in an act on Diablo, that's kind of how it felt. It didn't feel unique. Like just even getting to the next part, you had to kill a bunch of stuff. Grab the flag or whatever and plant the flag and then move on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like that part sucked. It
sucked you had to do it. It sucked you had to do it 3 times. So you had to do the same annoying thing.
Yeah.
3 times within the same run.
Yeah. And then like I remember I never got to the dogs until after. Like once you guys already kind of figured it out. So
you didn't
it wasn't
miss
as bad.
much. So much headache.
Yeah. So I do remember I guess it was the one with the lamps, where you're not the lamps, but the
bathing
chandeliers
pools.
or whatever. Yeah, the bathing pools. And we basically figured out what to do. We just couldn't figure out how to beat it, So
how to be
that
efficient.
was kind of where we ended it. Yeah, where we got the process. We just exactly. We weren't efficient on killing what we needed to kill to be successful.
And we ran out of time before people had to jump off.
Yeah, because hell, it took us so long to get through the one part, right? Like,
yes.
Oh goodness. So, and then of course I've never even beat Alice.
Now I will.
No matter how many times we tried,
Now, I will go ahead and say the Gauntlet was stupid fun. I loved the Gauntlet in the Leviathan raid. That was hella
I don't
fun.
remember it. Can you explain it just so I can maybe ring a bell here?
So the Gauntlet was that big circle arena where you had people that had to stand on the pillars that went up and down and shoot the 3 arrows, and then two people grab the orb of light to run inside and run that little obstacle course. That was so fun. It was annoying because you had people talking over each other in the party. You know what I mean? So it's like we had to try and get our group of people to be like, all right, shut up and keep all conversations, down unless you're saying, dog bottom or some shit. And people are like, yeah, so I went to Wendy's the other day and got a Baconator and they put tomato on it. And I told them no, like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, I think of that part as like what they wanted Bridge to be, but it never, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a better version of the Bridge.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely required a lot of communication and it required a lot of multitasking, which is fine with me. That's what makes Raid so much fun. I mean, like you said earlier, opening the doors, just 5 people hanging back at the door, just killing all these freaking, Cabal or not Cabal, whatever the hell they were called, that spawn.
Yeah, they were still Cabal, but they weren't like normal Cabal.
Yeah, okay. They were, but just killing that crap and then like, okay, what's the communication here? What's my symbol?
Yeah.
It's the dog. Okay, I got to run to the side of the map that has the dog. Or you just run around the map and find something that's spawned. There's no, I don't know. It's like you said, it was annoying. There was no actual substance would be the best word I could use. There's no substance to it. Like you said, it was just kill shit. Super boring. And the dogs was annoying because all it takes is one person to really fuck that up, and it's hard to keep track of who fucked it up. It'd be a little different if they made the raid say Milk Dud alerted a dog, and then you know who to blame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you got 4 people on the ground, 2 people up top, and it's hard to put the blame on somebody. Everybody blamed the man that was up front. Some people blamed the guy that was in the rear. Some people blamed it because someone stood up and crouched back down. I don't know. It was a pain trying to figure that out.
I think that you could pick and choose whichever one you did in whatever order, right?
For the dogs?
No. Like just if I wanted to do dogs first to get it out the way, I could in theory do that, right? Isn't that how it was allowed to be done?
No, all that stuff rotated on a weekly basis.
Okay, so okay.
It was a defined order. So like your events were, the bathing pools, the dogs, the gauntlet, and then the Callus fight. So one week it may be in that order, and then the next week it may be gauntlet, pools, dogs, Callus.
Okay, but it had a rotating. Okay, I thought that you could control that in some degree, but okay, so it was even more annoying, right? than I was thinking. Especially if you got like dogs first or the gauntlet, because those are two. As fun as the gauntlet is, it's a lot more difficult. It just is what it is. It requires so much communication that you kind of want to you want to see what you gauge what your team's going to be able to do, right? Like bathing pools is a good starting point to kind of see whether or not these 6 people are going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure.
So some of the other things
because the opening part, like you said, it's just a kill shit. I mean, you should be able to open the door with any freaking raid group in the whole universe. It's not hard. And then, like you said, the bathing pool is a very good gauge of your current team. And, at that time, we were playing with majority of people we knew in real life, but still just those 1 or 2 random people, you know what I mean? It's you come in and it's like, you know what you're doing, and random says yes and he doesn't. I'd just rather people be honest. Like if you don't know what you're doing, that's fine. Just listen to what we say. And if you don't understand it, ask questions. Like tell me what you're confused about. And if we have to run it a couple times to illustrate how it actually works, I'm okay with that too. But what I don't want to do is sit here and beat my head against the wall for 5 hours because you're too shy or quiet, or I don't know if it's your ego or whatever, to say, hold up, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, because I mean, it requires communication no matter how you look at it. Because you're swapping, like pedestals or whatever. You got to be able to communicate, bounce back and forth, do what you got to do. So yeah, there's nothing I hate more than the lack of honesty and communication. Even with friends, people we know, some of them wouldn't tell you the truth, or wouldn't tell you if they weren't getting it or understood what we were doing. And it, like you said, it eats time. You're being inefficient, and that's that's not fun. So after this, basically, Curse of Osiris launched. I don't even remember the damn DLC. I remember playing through the like the added missions, but I don't remember what else came with it. Like at this point, I wasn't really paying a lot of attention, to be honest.
That mini raid.
Oh, where they added like just another piece to the Callus, not Callus raid, but to that part of the raid, right?
Yeah, words.
Leviathan. Yeah.
Yeah, that word. It was a small raid. It only had like 3 parts to it.
Jeez. Yeah, what a disappointment that was, right? Where especially being, I know that I did, I'm sure that you did, and I'm pretty sure Paul and Lil John, we haven't mentioned him yet today, right? So we got to get him in. And Lil John, we all bought with the DLCs. So talk about a total fucking disappointment that was, right?
Yeah, and after that mini raid dropped, me and Paul, we were kind of Dunsky on that one.
Yeah.
That was because we were already not kind of happy with the Leviathan raid, and then this mini raid come out, and we were like, what the hell is this? Mainly because we'd already been a part of the Destiny 1 process where, these guys have already been accused of holding back content, which, later we found out was true. So when they did it again in Destiny 2, that was kind of like the last straw, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That kind of stuff.
And unfortunately, it doesn't get any better. So Warmind comes out next. And I think this added Mars. Where's she at?
Man,
you can tell I don't really care. I don't really care about Destiny 2.
I have no clue because honestly, from Curse of Osiris, when that
until
released,
like Shadowkeep or something,
yeah, from Curse of Osiris, I think I played that for a week or two, and then I just dropped Destiny all completely. Yeah. I didn't even slow trickle out of it. I just stopped playing it, and I didn't start playing it until Shadowkeep came back.
Yeah.
So as far as
Warmind,
as far as Warmind and Forsaken, I've got nothing. I've got Cheerios as far as information goes.
So I'm pretty sure Warmind added what's her face. I'm pretty sure it was on Mars, but it added the girl, and it was like the daughter of the guy who ran the Warmind area or something. I don't know. I don't really pay attention most of the time when I'm playing through it the first time, and that was with the what is those things called? Where you did you would do. It was like they added an event on Mars. I can't remember what it's called. Protocol something or other.
Escalation
and,
protocol.
That was kind of the whole. Yeah, escalation protocol. So that was the whole. I guess the thought process behind Warmind, and you do a certain number of those, or do them a certain way, you get guns or whatever. I don't know. But that was what it was all about. And then Forsaken kind of changed a lot of that, and they started to. I think that's when they changed the guns. So the guns went from being all about being in this where the heavies, and then they started moving them back to where you get your what am I missing here? Oh, sniper rifles and your I can't think of what the other one was.
Yeah, apparently
Fusion
Forsaken was the kind of equivalency of Taken King for Destiny 1.
Yeah.
It was the DLC.
Yeah, reset everything.
Yeah, it was the DLC that really turned the game around. And, surprise, Forsaken is the first DLC you have to buy that's not included in that pack. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we go into it. We've already dropped $100 on this game. We're thinking it's a deal because, it's the base game and it's got 2 DLCs, which each DLC costs $40. So we're like, yeah, we're getting this at a deal. And then, like I said, after Curse of Osiris dropped and it had barely any content in that short raid, like I said, Warmind didn't even play that. Forsaken, of course Forsaken was going to be the DLC, as they're teasing videos of it on YouTube and stuff like that. Of course Forsaken is the big one, you know what I mean? Because it expired past that season pass bonus or digital loot whatever the hell it was called.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first one you had to pay for. Then you could buy Forsaken and Shadowkeep in a bundle. And I'm like, no, you're not getting my money. Like, fuck you. You've done fooled me twice. I ain't doing it again. And of course, this is where the game turns around. This is where Little John starts playing this game super heavily, because Little John didn't play Destiny 1 at all, which is, I'm kind of sad for him because I really wish he would have. He would understand why so many Destiny veterans do not like Destiny 2.
Yep.
But in his eyes, he was going through the same thing we were going through in Destiny. This was his first time playing it. He basically, once all of us stopped playing, he found himself a clan, I think with some people that he knew in real life, like a couple people. But he also started playing with some randoms and stuff. And it seemed like every time I got on my Xbox, to watch my Netflix, which is what I bought an Xbox for apparently, he was always on. And he was always running raids and stuff. And I was like, good for him.
They got me to buy Forsaken. Obviously, being a hunter, that's when my boy Cade dies. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
I had to play it. Yeah.
Oh wait, we're supposed to say that before you say it. My bad. I don't know how to do spoiler alerts. All right, if you're listening to this and you didn't know that happened, just go to sleep and pretend you didn't hear it. You won't remember it tomorrow.
So that was the only reason. Seriously, that was the only reason I bought it, was because I felt some, I don't know, weird obligation. I don't know. Cade was my man.
He was your boy.
Yeah. Because back in Destiny 1 days, you had to go to your specific, your Titan or your, whoever your person was.
Zavala was my homie. Yeah.
Zavala was all about you. And then, who was the
Ikora?
Warlock? Ikora Ray. Yeah. So you had to go to them for your gear and that sort of stuff. So you got used to like hearing their whatever they were talking about and just like getting used to them. And Cade was my guy, man. So it was sad to see him die. And I don't know, they added Crow, I guess, and he's supposed to be like his replacement. And let me just say it right now, fuck Crow. He's not Cade, okay? I don't like him. I tried to play Destiny 2, I don't know, sometime this week, and that's when I met him, and I was like, yeah, I don't really care about you, buddy. I'm not really like a super lore guy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it, because, like, Cade was the jokester of the three guys. So, like, he probably related to most of the player base in Destiny.
Yep.
So, for people to get attached to him like that, because he was probably one of the best characters in that cast of the game, and then they just go and kill him off. Like, I had zero attachment to Zavala. Like, he sounded like that kind of dickheaded general in an army. You know what I mean? Like, you don't talk to him. You're not buddies with him. He tells you what to do. You say, yes, sir, and you go out in the battlefield and die for his war. That's how I relate Zavala. And, I didn't play Warlocks, so I didn't have any experience with Ikora, really. But Cade, he was the funny guy. People relate to him. And then they go and kill him off, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, and it sucks because, and they even kill his ghost, so you couldn't bring him back. So, I don't know. As much as I wanted to play it to see his end, is as much as I didn't want to play it after his end, if that makes sense. So, I was kind of done, man. Like, I played Shadowkeep, and, the thing about Destiny 2 in general, I hate the armor system. I mean, I enjoy that they revamped it, and then, the new Armor 2.0 system, I guess, but I hate I got to get to a certain number, and then those add up to get me to another certain number, and there's no value in doing a raid. You're not going to get significantly better armor, or putting you towards another tier.
Or even that, you didn't get guns that had raid-based perks, like Destiny 1.
Yeah. Hell, Destiny 2, we didn't talk about this at all, but you had the clans, man, which was awesome. Everything about it was awesome. But you get to a situation where you don't even run the raid, and then you can get a raid weapon. I don't know how you justify that as a company, or,
Yeah, that didn't sit right with me.
I don't know. I really wanted this game to be everything that I thought Destiny 1 could be if it just grew up a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, hit that next step.
Because we're going into Destiny 2 with the perception of what Destiny 1 is at the end of its life cycle. Like after
Yeah.
Bungie has done spent so much time tweaking this game, balancing this game, all the content with this game, when we hear a sequel of Destiny 2, we think, okay, Destiny or Bungie is going to pick up right where they left off with Destiny 1, but with better content and new weapons and maybe new subclasses, maybe a new character, new raid mechanics, that kind of stuff, and nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of what was sad, right? Like,
it's like they went backward.
They didn't even really change the subclasses that much. They took away what made some of this. Well, they took away the res for the Warlock, and then they took away the bubble basically for the Titan, and then we're like, okay, well, you got to get used to this. And it's like, but wait. You took away what literally made these classes fun, and expect us to enjoy the game now? What the hell?
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier with the whole weapon swapping thing, like who the hell's going to run a fusion rifle in their heavy slot?
Yeah.
Obviously
or sniper.
Yeah. Obviously they, the snipers, they were balanced for shit. They were utterly useless when Destiny 2 launched. The rocket launchers were utter shit when they were launched, probably because they didn't want another Galahorn situation. I don't blame them. You can't give me 10 different options for my heavy weapon and 3 options for my special weapon,
and they're all the same as your primary.
You gotta give me some balance, and like I said, that's where I feel like we went backward, because there was nothing wrong with primary, secondary, and heavy in Destiny 1, at least in my eyes.
I mean, the game is a bullet sponge anyway, so I in my mind it was perfect. Like you just said, it's perfect. Why fuck with something that worked? Yeah. I get it when it doesn't work, or you feel it's not working, but to tell me that I'm at or that the game is at a disadvantage because I have a fusion rifle in my special, get the hell out of here. Like, they weren't buffed enough. Even the Merciless, which was the exotic one, wasn't buffed enough to be better than some grenade launchers, and even a bad grenade launcher. So it's just like, it didn't make sense. So I'm glad that they changed it, but how many people did they lose in the process between the original release date and then Forsaken, Shadowkeep, or Beyond Light? Like, they've lost us basically forever. I mean, as long as it's free to play and I can get all the DLCs without having to pay for them, I'll still check them out, man. But I wouldn't. Destiny 2, I'm not giving them another dime, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, me, I'm, like I mentioned, I may have mentioned this on the 360 episode, I don't remember, but the Beyond Light is currently on Game Pass for Xbox, and I'm glad it is, because I played through the campaign, and honestly, that's all I cared about. The Stasis subclass, to me, at least on a Titan, I haven't played it on a Warlock or a Hunter, just because I just don't have that much interest in Destiny 2 anymore, is it to me, it's garbage. It's not fun to use. It introduced sunsetting mechanic, which I know a lot of people are kind of 50-50 on that. Some guys really like it. Some guys hate it. I could understand if you spent all this time grinding weapons with dropping with god rolls, and then Bungie comes along and says, hey, you remember all them countless hours you spent grinding that gun? Well, guess what? It's useless within 6 months. I get it, but also they don't want it to be like Destiny 1, where your, Galahorn and your Icebreaker and the Fatebringer was always the go-to guns from release date to end of life cycle. But back to my point before I veered off, I'm glad it's free on Game Pass, because if I would have paid $40 for that, I would have been pissed off, and I really would have been shut off from Destiny. So now, they're kind of downgrading Destiny 2 because they have so much content in the game. In this article here, it says that the game had reached 115 gigabytes in size. And basically they were taking content that released with Destiny 2 and putting it into a vault to where we couldn't really get access to it anymore. But they did announce that they would be bringing some stuff back from Destiny, which when they made that announcement, my ears kind of perked up like a dog. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they announced that, first thing, they just did this recently, they added 2 strikes from the Cosmodrome. which is kind of a cool start, but they're bringing back the Vault of Glass raid. I'll probably end up running that. I may go out and find a random team to do it because obviously no one else plays Destiny, but I may go hop in a random group and, kind of play around with it because it's the same raid, obviously, but it's going to be, up to level in Destiny. It'll, utilize Destiny 2 mechanics and supers and the different, like how they have the different subclass branches and stuff. So I've never played Vault of Glass with Destiny 2 mechanics, and that could be enjoyable. But like as far as these other upcoming DLCs like the Witch Queen, I don't care. And Lightfall, which I don't know if that's going to be their final title. I feel like Destiny 2 would have been much better if they just stopped at Shadowkeep and just went ahead and announced the Destiny 3. And this is...
Yeah, or you know what? I'd have been okay if they would have just said, we're going to bundle, like find a way to bundle them together. So, because how can you continue to have a game that's going to have like a 10 or 12 year lifespan and it's a fucking sequel? Like, yeah. I don't get it. Like, if you were going to do that, then you shouldn't have put a Destiny 2. You should have found a way to migrate the two servers together, just called it freaking Destiny, and then you'd have been good. I'm sorry, but sequels aren't as good as the originals 9 times out of 10 anyway. And then you're going to try to tell me to invest as many time and hours into a game that is a sequel because you say that, well, Destiny 1 was made for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 hardware, and it can't get to what we need it to be today. Listen, there's ways to do things if you're willing to put the time in. So I don't believe that entirely. It ran great, and they put out Rise of Iron, which was only on new consoles. So you can't tell me that you didn't have the ability to do so. So I don't know. I think that in a lot of ways we've seen the pinnacle of Destiny, and unfortunately, without it being a 3, I don't know if there's ever gonna or if they just rebrand. I don't even care. They just rename it Destiny and then just have a damn subtitle under it. The reemergence of light. Fuck, I don't care. Just it be a new game and it not focus on the stuff. They would have to fix the armor system for me to come back full time. Like that, there's no way in hell I'm going to grind like that. It's not something I care to do. I have zero interest in the grinding mechanic of the armor system. I think it's cheap and useless.
Here's my thought on it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because I have a bad taste for Destiny 2. I personally feel like, even as a company, I feel like they would make so much more money if they just stopped it at Shadowkeep, announced the Destiny 3, and added the Beyond Light, the Witch Queen, and the Lightfall DLC. If they just made that the core of Destiny 3, I feel like it would sell a lot better, because here's my thought process. You've already shunned away so many players from Destiny 2.
Yeah.
And the only way to bring those players back is to announce a new title. I find it honorable that you want to stretch out the life cycle of your game. I understand that. But you're taking something for me personally that just has such a bad taste in my mouth, and you want to prolong this shit show. Like, just give me something new. I'll give Destiny 3 another shot. I'll come in it with a clear head. You know what I mean? I may not buy your $100 bundle pack, but I'll come into the base game with, a clear head, and I'll come in there with, unbiased, and I'll play it out. And guess what? If it's bad, then I'm done. But you got my $60 anyway, so why does it matter?
Yep. Yeah, because you're not going to get me to buy anything else. When Witch Queen comes out, if it's not free through the Game Pass, well, I guess it's not free, but you know what I mean. If I don't have to pay money up front for it, but that's the only way you're going to get me to play it.
Right.
So I guess in my mind, just to sort of compare the two, right? So the hours played, we pulled directly off of, or rather, Bud pulled directly off of the Xbox app. It'll tell you how many hours played in each game.
Yeah, I came prepared today, fellas. I did some research.
This is the only one he's ever done research on.
Hey, don't blow my spot.
He did a great job though. But anyway, so we're gonna start Destiny 2 because obviously it's the newer game and we've shit on it. But Mr. Bud over here has 559 hours played to my 459 hours played. Okay, and this game's been out since when did it come out? 2017. So it's been out 4 years
Yes.
basically. Yeah, almost 4 years. So Destiny 1, Bud has 794 hours played to my 1004 hours played. And this game basically only had a life cycle of like 4 years. I guess, right? It's about 4 years. So to put it in perspective, 2 years. Really?
Yeah, 2.
So in 2 years, okay, so that's even worse than I thought. So 1,000 hours played in basically 2 years. That's insane, man. I mean, or I guess if you want to say 3 years, if you want to say that people played this until Destiny 2 is released, we can whatever. This game's already been out longer, and I've played less than half of the amount of hours into it. Now that has a lot to do with my personal life, and that I don't have as much time playing. But if you log on to Xbox and I'm on Xbox, I'm usually playing an Assassin's Creed title at this point. Just is what it is. You're not going to see me playing Destiny 2 that often.
Or playing Hulu Plus.
Yeah, one of the million other goofy apps that are out there that are not a video game. I think that's as telling as anything. Just looking at the hours played, as much as my life might be different, I would have found time to play a game more than I did. And the fact that I have 459 hours played blows my mind because I would have never guessed that I put that much time into the game as it is.
Alrighty, so I think that's about it for the Destiny episode here. Any closing thoughts or anything that you haven't mentioned between the two games, or maybe for the future of Destiny, maybe somewhere you'd like to see it go?
Man, I tell you, if they could find a way to give me Destiny 1 at Destiny 3, I'm cool, man. Let me have it. I am interested in playing Vault of Glass on Destiny 2. So when that comes, I mean, I'll definitely be playing at least one shot, whatever. But I think that, like you said, I don't think that Destiny 2 has a chance to be more successful than it is. I think it kind of is going to be as successful as it is. It's going to taper off like games do as they age, and it's just the way it is. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it going back to the way it was for us. I don't see me putting 1,000 hours into any video game anymore, but I definitely wouldn't do it into Destiny 2. I don't think they can find a way to get another 500 hours out of me.
Yeah, for me, I wish that they weren't such a stingy company to where everything I've bought on Destiny 2, like my DLCs and stuff, would transfer to PC. Because I feel like I would probably give the game a better shot on PC because it plays so good on a PC. I mean, it's just a night and day difference. I don't feel like, the game's free to play, but I don't feel like rebuying DLCs, and I damn sure don't want to buy Beyond Light because I've already played it on console and I don't want to pay for it on a PC, especially with the unpredictableness of how the content's heading now. You know what I mean? Because even the Vault of Glass, when it drops, I mean, I'm going to have to grind and get up to level before I can go out and do that. So that right there is, it's a catch-22, right? Like, I want to play the raid, but I don't want to grind the level to do there. So, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, one thing I do want to say. Yeah, freaking seasons, man. I think that
cash grab.
That is man, I hate it. I don't like that thought process. I mean, it works in games like Smite, right? But in other games, it just doesn't see. It seems slimy, right? It doesn't seem like it has the players in mind. Like I can't a new season started recently, and that's not why I played the game. I just played to see it, just kind of like what was going on, and you can't even play the core point of that deal, or not the DLC, that season, without buying the season pass. So you get a $10 out of me to be able to access so I can gain access to play whatever this particular little event is, like similar to a strike. And I pay $10 for this, and then I never have an opportunity to get these weapons, or they become obsolete or whatever. And it's just, man, that turned me off quicker than, just about quicker than damn Warmind, or Curse of Osiris.
Yeah, and the other thing that we forgot to mention real quick is that Activision split from Bungie, or Bungie split from Activision, rather, on December in like 2018.
Basically the end, yeah.
So,
But I thought that would benefit. I thought that it would get better.
I did as well, because I know that Activision ruins games because they are nothing but money-hungry, greedy corporations. Like, that's all they care about. I mean, they're behind Call of Duty. I'll get into how much I hate Call of Duty in probably future episodes. I can't stand the same fucking game that's released once a year that is nothing but a fucking cash grab. It's the same fucking game with the same damn principle behind it. I get you can only change it so much, but God, I hate it. I hate it because it's so popular. And I know a lot of y'all will probably hit me hard on that for the comments, and I really don't care. I can't stand how people make something so popular that is just not worth the notoriety it gets. But yeah, I was hoping with Beyond Light, because that was the first DLC to drop with Bungie being a sole publisher of their own game.
Shadowkeep was.
No, because Shadowkeep was actually still developed with Activision in mind. And I'm kind of still keeping an eye on Destiny 2.
Oh, Beyond, I got you. Beyond Light was them saying, we're finally clear. I got you.
Yeah. I'm still kind of keeping an eye on which queen, maybe like look at it on Facebook or YouTube if it pops up in my recommended video list, that kind of stuff. But I'm not going out here researching this stuff anymore. Like you said, I think I'm kind of just done with Destiny 2. Maybe if a Destiny 3 comes out, we'll get a little more excited on that. I don't know. Depends if a game...
We have other things to look forward to, right?
Yeah, it depends if another game ain't come out. Here currently it's, Diablo 2 Remake, Outriders, and then Diablo 4, whenever that comes out. Yep. But yeah, I think that about wraps up Destiny. Next week, we'll be getting into Xbox One, which is sadly going to be probably our last generation that we end up talking about. I know that me and Chris have spoke before that we just have no intention of buying the next series of consoles. Right now, at the time of this recording, it's February 20th, 2021. So these consoles have already been out now for 3 months? Something like that, 3-4 months.
Yep.
And we have no intention of buying them. I have a PC now. Chris is more than likely heading towards the PC route himself, but there's still a decent amount of games that we played on the Xbox One life cycle, and we'll get into that next week. Just want to thank y'all for listening. If you have any ideas for us to better the show or any arguments, minus the fact that I have a very abrasive personality, I get it. I don't mix with everybody. I'm sure Chris doesn't mix with everybody too. That's what makes everybody unique and different. That's why we all don't have the same kind of friends. So once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
If you made it this far, we appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Chris and Bud Show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Chris and Bud Show 1, at Deliberate88, and at BudB88. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.